today we're going to have a conversation with Nolie MacDonald. Now, she is the founder of a VR platform called VRenity. Now, this platform is absolutely revolutionary in the mental health space. It's a platform where you can create your own safe space in virtual reality and talk to life coaches as AI agents right there in the platform. It's really amazing. So without further ado, welcome Nolie. Hey, Nolie, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, hello. Nice to be on the show and nice to meet you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to have you here. So you founded VRenity, which is honestly completely amazing to find a VR platform, honestly. I can't even imagine all the work that goes into that. But what sparked the general idea for VRenity?
Well, it was a lot of things that kind of culminated to this moment. Actually, I feel like it definitely is my life's work. If I look past the last 20 years of my life, I actually started working in law enforcement. I was the crime analyst for Port of Seattle Police, and I've been in a lot of very high stress jobs. I also am a trauma survivor on a personal note, and so I was dealing with a lot of things I had to work through. And it was in my own kind of healing journey and being a tech nerd, and when AI kind of went mainstream with ChatGPT, I right around that time had the light bulb moment where I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if we could create something that would provide a virtual sanctuary to help people that are struggling? So it was kind of from my own healing journey that this came about. And luckily, I surrounded myself with a really great team and we were able to pull this off, which is a miracle because startups are not easy, especially when it's something like this.
Definitely. So for all the people who haven't heard about VRenity yet, what is VRenity?
It is a virtual reality platform that is designed for relaxation and just kind of overall improving your quality of life. And so our approach, which we call the VRenity model, is based on 3 pillars. That's mind, body, and emotional health. And so we always try to center all of the experiences that you will go through in VRenity around one or more of those pillars. And how we accomplished that was looking at what are ways that people find relaxation or comfort. And so one of the ways we looked at was horseback riding. And you actually, there's other organizations out there where Vietnam vets, or not Vietnam, but vets, they'll do horseback riding as a therapeutic thing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's an interesting concept to make it a virtual horse. And since we did decide to integrate with ChatGPT or OpenAI, that allowed us to create these interactive characters. And so one of those characters is a horse that we've named Gus. It's kind of like a modern day Oregon Trail. And then we also incorporated sound therapy. And that was something that I kind of benefited from on my own healing journey. Something my therapist had turned me on to was 8D sound, and also the concept of cymatics. I don't know if you're familiar with cymatics.
No, let's jump into that. So what's cymatics?
Cymatics is, it's better to just kind of paint a picture. So have you ever seen water where if there's a vibration, like a sound element that causes the water to vibrate, and then you change the frequency, the water vibration changes shape?
Yes, I've
that
seen
concept,
that, yeah.
Right? Well, our bodies are made up of 80% water. So it shouldn't be all that much of a surprise to think that frequencies do impact ourselves on a biological level. And so sound therapy and cymatics specifically is something that incorporates particular frequencies that are designed for healing. And so what we did is we created kind of like a meditative experience. It takes place in a cave. It's a virtual cave, and it kind of has a look like it might be on an alien planet. It doesn't look like any cave that could exist here. There are mushrooms that grow to be like 20 feet in the air. And when you interact with them, which is through like a tapping, like a drum, like a hand drum, it releases the singing bowl sounds and particular frequencies, and it creates a kind of interactive element. And then meanwhile, we also have sound that's kind of swirling around you through that 8D sound element that creates kind of a meditative, relaxing space. And then we also, on top of sound therapy, we wanted to make it fun and incorporate the latest AI advancements. And so we do have AI generated 360-degree scenes. We have 40 of them now. It's growing. And it's fun because since AI opens it up to whatever your imagination can dream up. Like I created a spa inside of a spaceship. Why not? It allows it to let your imagination kind of run wild, and I definitely did that. I have a pretty wild imagination, so this has been fun for me.
That's amazing. That's really cool. So let's jump back to the sound therapy thing. So does this have anything possibly to do with the 432 hertz thing that I've heard about?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. That is one of the frequencies that is a popular. There's there's several that are good, but that is a popular one. Yes. And so the idea is that there's something that happens within the body where it kind of takes you out of the fight or flight response. And so that's the goal. And with our target audience being people that are stressed, it's like, okay, well, how can we, do something where they just pop on a headset? And we also have a PC version, by the way. It's not just VR. But giving people a virtual sanctuary where they could kind of just relax. And I'm hoping that this helped to accomplish that in kind of a more accessible way. We do have apps like Calm that exist, that sort of thing. But adding that visual component, I think, is a new element that, and I'm actually excited to even explore someday, roadmap item, but other senses like scent. The more immersive that you can make it, the better.
So you said there's a lot of therapeutic frequencies. Is there also frequencies that maybe cause negative emotions as well?
Yeah, there's an actual scale, and I'd be happy to share that out afterwards. I don't have them memorized, but there's a scale, and they all kind of tie back with human emotions. And I kind of use it as an analogy. Have you ever walked in a room and you just feel like the vibe is off? Like it's just kind of like low vibes. Yeah. You get when I say that, right? And that is typically lower frequency emotions, which could be shame, fear, guilt, depression, sadness. And those all kind of linger in the air when you're around somebody that's in that kind of a state of mind. Same thing, you walk in a room and it feels very high energy and happy, and it all ties back to emotion. So emotional intelligence particularly is something that has fascinated me, coming from a household where in my family you did not talk about your emotions. You shoved that under a rug and you carried on with life. So the whole concept of understanding my emotions and being able to communicate them with something that was a foreign concept to me, and I think it is for a lot of people, especially if they're from an older generation. It's a little bit less stigma with the younger crowd, but I have two older brothers that are in their 50s, and when I try to mention emotional intelligence to them, they kind of roll their eyes.
Okay. Wow. No, that is really interesting. So you try to create that ambience, that kind of safe space with the sound and the visuals. You mentioned that you were able to create a spot in a space shuttle. So are you able to kind of create whatever spaces that you want?
Exactly. Yeah. It's really whatever your imagination can dream up. We even have Van Gogh's Starry Night painting as one of the scenes, which is really cool to feel like you're inside of a painting. We have another one that's a kind of a paint, like a watercolor painting style that looks like you're in a field with like butterflies like flying all around you. And I feel the essence of Mary Poppins when, they kind of jump into the painting and they're part of it, right? Like that's kind of the feeling it invokes, which is fun. And there's also lots of nature scenes because that's what I find relaxing. I'm definitely a nature girl. And so anything to do with like waterfalls or, like forest scenes, rivers, anything like that would be like pretty tranquil scenes. We have lots of those.
Wow, no, that is really cool. So imagine I'm a very new person. I just downloaded VRenity. What does it look like when I first jump in?
So I have an affinity for tree houses. So the home base where you first arrive is in the living room, essentially, of a tree house. And it's one that I designed alongside one of my developers, Ryan Smith, who is a savant when it comes to 3D animation. And I had a blast doing this with him because he's just so talented. But I did include an infinity pool, a jacuzzi. There's a couple of gazebos with hanging basket chairs and candles everywhere. I mean, it's literally an interior designer's dream. It's like merging like a modern day tree house with, I mean, I don't even know, but it's very, very cool and unique, I think. I've never seen a tree house quite like this. And the start screen, actually, before you go into the tree house, we have a spiral staircase that leads up to the tree house. So that kind of goes around, wraps around the trunk, and it has the name VRenity carved in wood inside the staircase. Once you're in the lobby, you can hotspot around. So you can go into the jacuzzi, where you can also experience a muscle tension release experience. And one of our AI agents, his name is Nerdle. He talks you through a muscle tension release, where it's like you hold it, hold that kind of tension pose for 5-10 seconds, release it, and kind of works from the head down to the feet. So that's one particular experience. And it's also interactive. Nerdle is at any point in time when you're in the treehouse or really anywhere in the platform, you can talk to him, and you can really talk to him about anything. And he's designed specifically to be a life coach. So his back end training is intended to get you to talk about your feelings, which is an interesting concept, to talk to AI about your feelings. I think that's a new concept, most definitely, and we'll have to see how people react with that.
That's really cool. Wow. Yeah, the technique about tensing up and releasing. My girlfriend's a psychologist, and she has me do that sometimes when I have anxiety, and it really helps a lot. So that's really, really cool.
Yeah, there's tons of little tools there that luckily, once you learn them, which this is a platform to learn them, right? But then you can actually do them in the real world too. So
yeah, that's beautiful. So how do you see this evolving in the next few years? I know you mentioned Sense, but do you have any other ideas of where this might go?
Oh, I have so many ideas, and it really just comes down to money. But but I definitely have big dreams. As part of the kind of second phase, we do want to bring this to organizations to where we can capture the emotional health of an entire workforce. And I think that would be really valuable information, not just for leadership, but also like people should know, like if they're in a toxic work environment, or if they're they're almost on the verge of burnout. Maybe there are ways we can help prevent it from even happening in the first place, right? And so we do want to start to build out this predictive analytics with a feedback loop with the AI, which can help us detect that burnout, and then also provide reporting that would be to the leadership level, anonymized, not personal data or anything like that, but just kind of giving a pulse on the emotional health of their workforce. So that's something that's going to be in the works. And then eventually, I do want to incorporate full body avatars for a multiplayer experience. And this would allow not only for community, but also for therapists, like real human therapists and patients, to meet in a virtual setting that would be very relaxing. Like imagine meeting with your therapist next to a waterfall, and conducting your talk therapy session there. And I like that idea personally, because I did find that remote therapy, and I found this out because of COVID, everything went remote, and comparing talking to a therapist in a traditional office setting versus in a remote setting, I was able to open up more. And I think that's because you feel a little bit of a cloaking mechanism, or, you're able to be a little bit more vulnerable and talk about difficult things when there's that separator there. And I think virtual reality will just add to that. So I'm excited to see where that can go.
Yeah, perhaps it's also just being in like a safe spot, right? Because you control your own environment. You don't have to go into their office and feel a little bit uncomfortable. You're not familiar with the chair, the smells, right?
Right.
That's what I would think.
Absolutely.
But, wow, no, that is really, really cool. So let's jump into the startup life. So it's always a bit of a roller coaster. What are some of the biggest challenges that you guys have had building this platform out?
Well, the technology in this space is changing so rapidly. So that's definitely been something where the original concept for what we had in the business plan has definitely evolved and pivoted probably about 3 or 4 times. When we first started, we actually were going to be doing 360-degree nature scenes that were going to be video walls, like a retrofitted room. And that was same concept of escapism with nature. But when ChatGPT 4.0 came out and it allowed for that voice interactivity with I definitely wanted to jump on that bandwagon. And so we did pivot our product to incorporate that. And I think it's one of our key differentiators at this point in time.
Wow, no, that's really cool. And you also mentioned that grassroots marketing is a really big part of your strategy. What kind of things are you doing in terms of that you found
Well,
to
I
be
mean,
quite well?
we were lucky enough to get angel invested, and that's what's gotten us to this point.
Mm.
And I have a team of 11 people. Most of them are fractional. I have 2 full-time developers. But now, at this stage that we're at, we are in that kind of difficult financial position. So that forced us to kind of do more of a grassroots approach because marketing is one of the most expensive things that there is. And so you kind of have to make it work with what you got. And so we are definitely reaching out to organizations in the talks with like fire departments, law enforcement agencies, military even, and also honestly, corporate America. If there is a place that stress happens, this could be a useful tool. And I'm hard up to think of a place that stress doesn't exist. So there's definitely some that are higher than others, but I think everyone would benefit from something like this and having an option to kind of just get away, zen out for 5-10 minutes a day, right? So that's our grassroots, is kind of reaching out to these organizations, word of mouth, referral. We do have a decent social media presence. It's coming from a marketing background. I definitely focused on brand for a good chunk of the very early days of this company. And Nerdle, who is the main AI inspiration for starting all of this, I created the socials under Nerdle. And when I launched those 1.5 years ago, I would incorporate sound with nature footage and that sort of thing because I didn't have a product yet, right? So it's like, what do I sell? And so I focused more on creating fun content that was very visually appealing, and also incorporating educational elements on mental health. And now I think we're up to 20,000 followers. So
Oh wow,
yeah,
that's pretty good. Yeah.
yeah. So it's been, it's getting there.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So would you say you spent most of your budget on just development and
Absolutely. Yeah, two developers, and they both came from Meta, so they were not cheap. So those salaries definitely were the bulk amount of what's been spent.
nice, nice. So I bet they did a really good job, eh?
They did a great job, and very different skill sets. I think it's nice to have a diversity and pull from people's strengths. And one of my developers that I already mentioned, Ryan Smith, he comes from this kind of 3D animation artist realm, and he loves doing characters. And then Eric Navala is another dev that has much more of a technical background. So integration work and finding the bugs and fixing them, that's his strong suit. So between the two of them, I really did get a great team that's able to kind of tackle the world. So that's half the battle, is just getting the right people on your team.
That's good. That's good. That's always good. So as a female founder in tech, have you faced any unique challenges along the way?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, people innately do judge a book by its cover. And I think that when people have met me over the course of my life, actually, I think that a lot of assumptions might have been made about my capabilities or what I'm, really what I'm capable of. Yeah. And it isn't an accurate representation, and I knew it wasn't, but I also don't like to defend myself. I like to just kind of do it and show people. And I think that, I've had to, especially with kind of older tech, like a lot of people that are in the kind of the tech sector are kind of like older white males, like, let's be real. And I think that there's a lot of prejudices in that Not that they're probably doing it deliberately. I think it might be on almost a subconscious level, but you sometimes don't get taken as seriously as a woman until you get to a certain point, right? You have to almost like prove yourself before you'll be taken seriously.
Interesting. Okay. So for others looking to innovate when it comes to mental health and technology, what advice would you give them based on your own experiences?
If they were going into that field, or
Yeah, if they were going to build a product in that field or just going in that route, what would you tell them?
well, I think it's an exciting time to do it. And I would say, because of that, it's a little bit of an untapped thing, right? I mean, there are products out there that work in the tech mental health space, but it's so new. It's in its infancy, most definitely. And so if you can create a product that helps people and that's utilizing the latest in tech, I say go for it, because when something's in its infancy, that means it really can usually only go up. Of course, you need to have a great team and you need to have a great product. But yeah, I think this is a great time to get into this field.
That's good. And if VRenity could achieve any milestone in the next 5 years, what would that look like?
I'm hoping that, and I'm not going to actually say names, but we do have a military base that we're talking to. But in 5 years, I would love to be able to see VRenity actually deployed as a product that's in different countries where our soldiers are, and they have it as an option to kind of take them out of the stressful war zone that they might be in. Or I just want to reach more of like a global presence, and I want to help the people that need it the most. So within 5 years, I'm hoping that our expansion has gotten to a global level.
That's good. That's beautiful.
And I will say, actually, on that global note, so Nerdle and Gus, the two AI agents that we have, they do speak over 50 languages.
Oh, wow. That's impressive. Nice.
Yeah.
So we always try to throw in a fun question here on the podcast. So my question is, if you could create any virtual reality experience just to enjoy, what would yours be and why?
Well, I actually know exactly what it would be, because I'm still trying to accomplish it in my own platform. And so fingers crossed, but it's an inspiration from, do you know the Soaring Over, or what is it? Soaring Over California? I think that's the name of the ride. It's Disneyland ride. It's on the California Adventure side, and it's a simulation ride. Okay, I think it's called Soaring Over California, but I have been on that ride like 20 times. I just love it. And so it's a simulation ride where you feel like you're parasailing over, oceans and rivers and forests. And then they take the extra step with the senses, where they pump in tree smell when you're going over the trees, and they pump in water mist when you're going over the oceans, just to make it feel that much more immersive. And the whole gliding of the parasailing. So I'm in the works of kind of getting a drone and getting our VR camera attached to it, to where we could capture footage that's kind of a more fluid motion like that. And I think that would be a really cool experience. So let's hope if I can pull it off. That's the hardest part with things like this, is you just have to get the content workflow figured out, but it's in the works.
That's beautiful. That's really cool. So where can people learn more about you and VRenity?
VRenity.com, VRenity. And if you go up to the top menu where it says download VRenity, there is a video that you can watch, as well as some more information on the different experiences and a pretty robust FAQ section. So if any question you have, it's likely answered there. And if it's not, please feel free to reach out to us through the Contact Us form.
Well, beautiful. I really appreciate having you on the podcast. It's been really cool. Very interesting platform. And I wish you the best.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.